Welcome to Give a Heck. I am your host, Dwight Heck, and for much of my life, lived my life in quiet desperation, wondering how I was going to pay the bills, take vacations, save for retirement, and one day wondering if I would get off the hamster wheel of life and have purpose. A life that most of society lives, which takes us to work, then home, then repeat, and pays us hopefully enough just to survive. The harsh truth that most live with more months than money and have no idea how to live life on purpose, not by accident. This ensures the mass majority are living not just financially broke, however emotionally and mentally as well due to financial pressures. In each episode, I will introduce you to thoughts, ideas, and guests that can help you to learn how you too can live life on purpose, not by accident. Good day, and welcome to Give a Heck. On today's show, I welcome Alex Ramirez. Alex is the founder of a world movement of modern gentlemen committed to achieving true freedom and having it all. Alex's mission is to find the best methods to help men master themselves and live to their full God-given potential. His passion is helping men building amazing things by supporting their mindset and performance, the two most important aspects that entrepreneurs must work on. His gift is to help free entrepreneurs from negative subconscious programming such as self-sabotage, doubt, fear, unworthiness, thus helping entrepreneurs operate at their full potential. Alex was not always successful, however, got to where he is now by overcoming the challenges that life threw at him, learning the lessons and recording and systematizing those lessons in a way that other men would benefit from them. Alex has come from generational cycle of mediocrity, drug addiction, poverty, and broken families. He is putting an end to generations of people who lived in complacency and wasted their potential. His life mission is to break this generational cycle of mediocrity in his family and in hundreds of others entrepreneurs' families. Bottom line, Alex helps entrepreneurs build a multi-million-dollar network to increase their net worth, authority, credibility, trust, and opportunities with the processes he has for millionairepodcastautomation.com. I'd like to welcome you to the show, Alex. Thanks so much for agreeing to come on and share with us some of your life journey.
Thank you, man. Thank you very much for having me. I couldn't have said that better. So thank you. Thank you as well for that.
Yeah. You're welcome. You're welcome. It's important that people that we start off in a great way so that people understand what I already know, how great you are and how much information you're going to be able to share. And I know the story that you're going to tell throughout this conversation, the stories that you'll share will move and resonate with people and help them lift up their own lives and stop being camped and start climbing. So Alex, one of the things I like focusing on, and you and I have talked about this before, listeners, I've been blessed to be on Alex's show myself. And we've talked about some of these things, but I've focused on a person's origin story because I believe that we're a combination, and you know this yourself, just from you sharing with me your origin in our last conversation, how important it is that you are specifically where you are because of circumstances, good, bad, or ugly from your childhood. So Alex, do me a favor and the listeners and share with us your origin story and what key things from your childhood to adulthood that led you to where you're at currently today.
Got it. All righty. Yeah, for sure. So let's see. Where can I start? Well, first of all, man, I want to say that, some of the things that I got going on right now is that I had a goal to build my current business to 7 figures, right, by the end of the year. And if you set a goal that you know exactly how you're going to achieve and that you know exactly what you need to do to get there, then it's too small. And I'm halfway to achieving my goal by the end of the year. And I know exactly what I need to do and how I'm going to be achieving that, how I'm going to be building a 7-figure company by the end of the year, right? That's about 100K, about 80K per month. And I know exactly how I'm going to achieve it. And if you ever set a goal that you know exactly how and what you need to do to achieve, then it's too small. So I decided to go for an 8-figure company, to build an 8-figure company in the next year or so. And, and it's crazy because I'm just a 21-year-old Mexican kid who just learned how to speak English 3 years ago, right? And I'm saying this, like I'm starting with this, right? You asked about my origin story, and I'm gonna get that in a second, um, but I'm just like starting with this just to put into perspective what's possible for everyone, because there's nothing special about me, right? There's nothing special about me, and I'm starting with this just to like hold up a mirror so that you can see the power that you have within you. And like I said, I'm just a 21-year-old Mexican kid who just learned how to speak English 3 years ago. 3 years ago, I couldn't speak more than 3 words in English without choking myself. And long story short, I come from, like you said, a generational cycle of mediocrity, drug addiction, alcoholism, and broken families. And the reason I say that, man, is because my father was a drug and alcoholic for the major part of his life, like more than a decade, almost 2 decades. And through that journey, he had 7 different kids with 7 different women, right? So he went through life just having kids all over the place, doing drugs and drinking, right? And I didn't grow up with my dad. He left when I was less than 1. But I reconnected with him 14 years later. But I was 14, I reconnected with my dad, and he gave me some advice. He said that if you wanted to be successful, happy, and fulfilled, right? This is what SHF means, and I use it a lot. I have a couple of logos with SHF. If you wanted to be successful, happy, and fulfilled, he said that you needed to become a gentleman. And my dad, was trying to give me some advice based on the lessons that he learned from fucking up his entire life, right? And fucking up his entire life is, like words that I use because that's what he used. It's not like I'm judging him or anything, right? That's literally how he said it, right? Like he felt like he had fucked up his entire life, and now he wanted to give me the lessons that he learned. And which I hope serves anyone listening, right? And he said that if you wanted to be successful, happy, and fulfilled, you needed to become a gentleman. And the way you did that was by achieving true freedom. And, true freedom is something that a lot of people talk about, right? And he said that there were 4 freedoms that you had to achieve in a specific order. He said that physical freedom came first, which is learning how to love yourself, basically, right? Taking care of your body and your mind, learning how to love yourself and putting yourself first. That was the first freedom. That was the first thing that you should focus on. Then the second one was emotional freedom. He said that in order to master yourself, you needed to know about yourself, right? Like you can't master something that you don't know. So emotional freedom is about getting in tune with who you are, what you want, where you're going, right? Your purpose, and mastering yourself. That's emotional freedom. He said that once you had those 2, the financial freedom was going to come very easy and simple, right? It was going to be very simple from there. So then now you spend the next couple of years working on those 3. You end up with a business that provides a nice lifestyle with a lot of confidence and conviction around who you are, and looking and feeling amazing because you've been working on all of those 3 freedoms for a couple of years now. So now you basically have it all, right? But you're missing one thing. And now that you have it all, you can go out, taste a little bit, look for the woman that you're going to spend the rest of your life with, build a family with, and keep on growing your empire with. That's sentimental freedom, becoming a husband and a father. And that's the order in which, like a man should do things, right? Like there's no right way or wrong way, but that would be like the ideal way to become a gentleman. And that's the advice he gave me, basically, right? He said that the reason most men fuck up is because they do things backwards, right? They're missing a sense of significance from within, which they try to fill with all the wrong things: drugs, alcohol, and in his case, women, right? So my dad was 18 when he got someone pregnant. So he did everything backwards, right? The first thing he did was get someone pregnant. Now he's trying to provide, which is, by the way, how a lot of, a huge like portion of men do it, right? So he got someone pregnant, became a husband and a father. Now he's trying to provide, and he's spending all of his time on the financial freedom, trying to make it work and trying to figure it out, failing to do so, and sedating himself with drugs and alcohol, right? Never getting to neglecting his family and his wife, not making money, not getting to know who he is, and not taking care of himself, doing everything backwards, right? And that's how he said most men end up fat, poor, ugly, alcoholic, mediocre, divorced. And, and that he was like, that's what happened to me, right? Like it happened to me 6 times. And then I like once, and then I repeated it 6 times. I mean, and so don't do it this way, do it that way. And that's the advice he gave me when I was 14. And guess what? Dwight?
You
Guess what?
followed it. You
I
followed
didn't
his
listen.
advice. You didn't
No, I
listen
didn't.
initially. Oh, initially at 14, of course you wouldn't. But
Right.
obviously today you do, or you wouldn't be repeating it, right? So it
Exactly. Yeah.
impacted you. It just took a while. At
Yeah.
14,
Exactly.
what are most 14-year-olds thinking about? They're not thinking about that kind of advice.
Hmm.
So
And
yeah,
and
of
the reason
course
I didn't
initially you would. You would
the reason I
ignore it.
didn't listen is because I was missing that sense of significance that he was talking about, right?
Yeah.
And I tried to fill it up with all the wrong things, with being the one that drank the most and being the one that did the most of anything that they put on the table. From 14 to 18, I was addicted. I was doing drugs, drinking, partying, no goals, no mission, no purpose. I was lost. And then at 18, guess what happened? I got my girlfriend pregnant. Right. So I started going down the same path as my dad, repeating the same cycles. Um, and my mother, Dwight, had me at 15 years of age, man. Right, like a kid having another kid. I had a really rough upbringing. She did the best she could, but like in my experience, I had a really bad time, and she had me at 15. And growing up, she told me a story. She said that if you have a kid at a young age, you're going to be a fuck up. You're not going to amount to anything great. You're going to fail, and you won't do anything with your life. That was the story. That was like her story, right? That's how she felt from having me at such a young age. And it became my story. Like I believed it. Like I was sold that story dozens and dozens of times growing up. So it became mine. So at 18, when I got my girlfriend pregnant, I got really scared and I didn't want that baby. So me and my girlfriend decided to go with what seemed like the easiest and fastest route, which was abortion, right? And my girlfriend, to not like get into too much detail, or unless if you want to, like I'm happy to get into detail, but just to just like the high level story is like that my girlfriend ended up taking like 40 some pills on Google. That's where we got our information from. It said that she was going to be in pain and bleed, and that's exactly what happened. She was in pain for a couple of nights, had a really bad time, bled everything out, and it worked. A month went by, she got her period, just as she normally would, right? Confirming that it had worked. Another month went by, and she didn't get her period, and we were like, what the hell is going on? Like we bought a test, she took it, she was pregnant again. So we did the whole procedure again. She took more pills. Again, she was in pain for a couple of nights, had cramps, had pain, couldn't sleep, bled everything out for the second time. And it worked, right? Another month went by. We were graduating high school. We were seniors. Prom and dances were going on. She wore tight dresses. She didn't look pregnant. She didn't feel pregnant. Nobody knew that she was pregnant. We didn't know. And then we graduated. And then I was still that lost kid that I was telling you about in a moment ago. But after graduating from one week to another, man, out of nowhere, I became the father of a premature baby that was born at 5.5 months of gestation. And like, that was the worst thing that ever happened to me. Like, yeah, I don't know if you know, but, babies are supposed to be born at 9, and I found myself at 18, having addicted, not having anything going for myself, lost. And with a baby that could literally fit in the palm of my hand, that was connected to a bunch of stuff at the hospital that I previously tried to kill multiple times before that. And like that, like for the next couple of months, like that whole process was full of pain, shame, and guilt. And like I said, it was the most painful and worst thing that ever happened to me. But it turned out to be the best, right? Like most hardships that you go through and that you grow through, it turned out to be the catalyst for my growth, the catalyst for finding out who I am, what I want, and where I'm going. And all of that I'm telling you about, Dwight, happened 3 years ago. Seems so surreal, right? Happened 3 years ago, and I'm about to get married to my girlfriend this November because it finally makes financial sense to do so. And my daughter, man, you wouldn't even believe it, but she's absolutely beautiful. She's healthy, and nothing is wrong with her. And I don't know what else to call that other than a miracle. And like my life has just been, you know, for the last like year or so, my life has been, well, the last 3 years have been full of personal development, growth, and everything. But for the last like year or so, I've just been like a vessel that is doing, like what I'm called to do, what is doing what I believe is God's will. Like that's what I'm here for, building modern gentlemen, and that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm dedicating my life to. And like a year ago or so, I stopped wanting to do things my way and like working really hard to do things my way, and everything is like literally unfolding, and I'm having amazing, what I believe is amazing growth.
Wow. Yeah. Listeners, I hope you I hope that all of this resonates. There's a few specific things that I want to discuss with Alex, but never forget, like he said, this was 3 years ago. And people discount what can happen. So it may be 3 years, but can you imagine the steps that have happened and changed within Alex's life in those 3 years? Just the process of self-development and growth, and really taking to heart those lessons that your dad taught you at 14, even though you still had to go through the school of hard knocks, make some
Yeah.
mistakes, Alex. It still resonated with you, or it wouldn't have come back to you this point in time after, for you to start on a path to, change your own life. But you're not just changing your own life, you're changing, like you said, your daughter's life. You're getting married this fall. So, share with us a little bit more in regards to what were some of the steps that you did through in that 3 year period. Like you said, personal development. What were some of the, like, what's fine for us to share all the good things that happen. You've, talked a little bit about the bad things. What were some of the things that you went through over that 3 year period? And, like, how many times did you hit a brick wall? What did you do in order to bring yourself out of that? Was it through associations with mentors, or did you find somebody that you could follow online, books? Like, what did you do in the last 3 years to get you where you're at?
Yeah, well, a huge thing, Dwight, has been definitely 100% investing in myself, right? I believe I've invested over about $200,000 in the past 3 years in like courses, books, coaching programs, masterminds. And that's been a huge part, of my growth, I believe. And I started doing that as soon as I started to like make money. Like any money that I made in the past 3 years, the majority of the money that I made in the past 3 years went back to myself. Like I invested back in myself. Like I literally did that for the first 2 years. And one of the reasons that I was able to do that, Dwight, is that I was so fortunate, and I'm so grateful about this. Even though I literally did my high school, I literally did high school high. Like I would literally, like those like weed pens, like
Yeah.
like the little, yeah. So I would literally, before going to school, right? Like before first period, I would go to the restroom, get high, go to my class. And then after the first class, I would like go to the restroom, get high to go to my second class. And then in between my second class, I would go to the restroom and get high and then go to my third class. And I literally did high school high, right? And despite that, I got the Obama scholarship to go to ASU, Arizona State University. And, when I graduated and all of that with my daughter happened, well, I still got to go to college and everything was paid for. My like housing was paid for, books was paid for, school was paid for. They even paid for my clothes and my gas, like literally, right? So I didn't have to worry about money for an entire year. My girlfriend lived with my mother while I was like studying in college, trying to figure things out. And since I didn't have to worry about money, like all the money that I ever got, I just invested back into myself. And as soon as, so that, my daughter was born in June, I went to school in August, June, July, August. So I spent 2 months trying to figure out what to do. And, in trying to figure out what to do, I got recruited by PHP, which is, like an insurance company, like a network marketing insurance company. And I started to surround myself with, with positive energy, with people who are trying to grow, with people who are trying to develop. I started like to invest in myself, read books. The reason I learned English fast is because I read for 2 hours every single day, like out loud, right? So like I think that like practicing that allowed me to learn how to speak better, as well as worked on my mindset, as well as learned a lot, learned skills, learned mindsets, surrounded myself with people. So investing into myself, and I started to do that. Like something shifted in me when my daughter was born, and I was like, I can't mess around anymore. Like, and it was hard, right, to like get out of drugs. And I would like say that I was going to stop and then do it again, and then say that I was going to stop and then do it again, and then say that I was going to stop and then do it again, until that do it again happened less and less and less. So it was definitely a process. Yeah. But that's basically what happened. Yeah.
Wow. That it still amazes me though, at such a young age, most people don't have the clarity of thought and the focus that you've developed in 3 years. So, it's a testament part of me that, as you mentioned, like I think about your comments, how you'd go to class and the break, you get stoned, go to the next class, come back, get high, and you still manage to achieve, going to college, which is fantastic, and develop throughout the process. Like listeners, if you haven't caught on to that, most people at 21 years of age are still partying. They're still stuck in that rut of life. They're still on a hamster wheel. And what did Alex tell you? He told you that he plugged in over $200,000 in the last few years, coaches, books, masterminds, right? Invested in himself. And I hear this so many times when people start having some success in life, they take the money and you see them with a lot of bling. They see them with a lot of materialistic things. They've got cars, they're going on vacations, they're being what I call the baller. And instead, Alex had enough thought process to realize that he needed to invest in himself. And it also goes back to that message of what your dad was talking about too, right? And what your dad taught you, right? And the fact of you have to worry about your physical, emotional, financial, and then, developing relationships, having that family. You've worked on all that stuff. You are working all that stuff. You're not a facade. You're not a person that's just out telling people. You're actually doing it and telling
Every single
people.
day. Yeah.
So you're
Yeah.
serving society by being the example that society needs, especially young people. So I'm proud of you, brother. Congratulations. That's amazing. And I'm familiar with some of these companies you talk about. So listeners, excuse me, one of the things you might have heard is that he said he was in an MLM, right? And I've been in a few MLMs in my life, and some people, it makes them cringe. There might be people listening or watching this on YouTube
They're
that are
great. I love
cringing,
them, man.
right? They have their pros and cons, right? Definitely. One of the biggest things about MLMs is they take you through a personal development journey, because really most people's 6 inches between their ears is messed up from those pattern behaviors, similar, pardon me, to what Alex was talking about, where our circumstances, our families take us onto a pattern that we have to choose to decide to follow or not follow. And many people in society do. Alex, though, was fortunate to have an MLM come in his life. So I'm not saying that's the only way you can succeed in life. I'm saying, though, that MLMs, for myself, even some of the books that I first read over would be let's close to 30 years ago. The Magic of Thinking Big, Think and Grow Rich, the 5 love languages, books like that, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. All those books were introduced to me by an MLM.
Same.
Am I with that MLM? Absolutely not. It just wasn't for me. Just like not everybody's destined to be a speaker, a podcaster, a welder, a baker, a doctor, a nurse. Not everybody's designed to be that. Not everybody's designed to be in an MLM. But God brought an MLM to me, more than one throughout my life, that has helped me reset and refocus on the personal development side. So don't ever discount the fact of plugging into an MLM, even if it's not something that you're necessarily wanting to do as a career, because the people are driven to change their 6 inches and always be on the climb. And that's basically all I wanted to say about that. Anything you want to add about that, Alex?
Well, let's see. I wanted to add, man, that yeah, 100%. Like I when I got introduced to that MLM, something got reignited within me, right? Like all the personal development, the high energy. You go into the rooms, right? Like in which you're going to get recruited, and all of a sudden, you go from not knowing anything about entrepreneurship to seeing these very successful people, speak on stage and stuff like that, and like that just opens your eyes to different levels of possibilities, and I'm extremely grateful for that because I always had that, like something within me, right? I just felt it. Like when I was 12, I'm from a border town, right, with Mexico and the U.S. When I was 12, I used to go to school in the U.S. and I used to like sell chips and candy from Mexico in the U.S., right? So I was like making money, right, already when I was 12, and then 13 and 14, I was selling Chinese stuff from China, like virtual reality glasses, smart watches when started to become a thing, things to like put on your dashboard so that you can put your phone there and like use it as a GPS. That was when I was 13 and 14, and then like at 14 and 15, I was selling cars, right? Like buying cars in auctions in the US, crossing them to Mexico, like literally bribing the Mexican border patrols to let me cross my car at 14 years of age, so that I can fix it in Mexico, take it back to the US and resell it, right? And I always had that, like I always had that like drive to do something, to be something greater, to want to be better. But then I got lost, right? At 14, I got lost. I just got sucked into insecurities, right? Of into the insecurity that the majority of the world has, which is not being good enough, which is trying to fit in, which is trying to be liked by everyone, and wanting to chasing significance, right? With all the wrong things like drugs, alcohol, women, like partying, fitting in with friends. And I got lost from 14 to 18. And then at 18, what I told you about that happened with my daughter, that event had to happen in order for me to get back on track. And I got back on track. I got introduced to the MLM, and that was another catalyst for my growth. So I'm extremely grateful for that. I love MLMs. I don't have anything to against them. They're really good opportunities, right? Even though the majority of people like fail. Well, the majority of people fail in everything, but they're great. Like, yeah. And that's what I wanted to add, man. That
Well,
they
that's amazing. You added so much more. I love hearing more and more about your origin and 12, 14 years of age doing the chips candy. My first experience in business, I was about 12 years old, and people are going to chuckle about this, but at one point in time, people actually did deliver the newspaper to your house. I was the newspaper
yeah.
boy. And back when I did it, nothing was electronic. There wasn't take money out of your bank account or do any of that stuff. I had to go physically collect money from people, take the little tag off and give it to them. I'd have them hiding behind their curtains because they couldn't afford to pay me. And I'd be knocking at the door. They wouldn't answer. And I was such a kind kid. I'd deliver the paper, even if they didn't pay me. Some people would be behind 2-3 months before finally I'd cut them off. Well, it was a lesson of being a young entrepreneur, realizing that you don't pay, you don't get, right? Kindness is great, but you have to be able to pay your bills. You have to be able to survive. So that was my youngest experience of being an entrepreneur. And listening to you say that you sold the chips and candy and then the stuff from China and then the car story, that's amazing. Going across the border and working on cars is such a great I can see why you are where you are. And yes, you ran into hurdles, like you said. We all do. It's easy to get dragged back into the circumstances of patterns that we've seen and listened and throughout our lives, but you didn't stay camped, right? MLM was a catalyst for you. Guess what? I was the first time I ever got introduced to an MLM. I was already an entrepreneur. I already had my own business, but I didn't have that personal development segment, that 6 inches. I didn't have that. And that's one thing that MLMs in all facets have nailed down perfectly. They realize that they've got to work on the person and go from the inside out, right? So many people start working on the outside, and like you said, we're trying to present a specific image, and we chase significance. I like how you put that, right? We chase significance. So we want to present everything, but yet inside we're hurting. We're confused. Maybe we're not sleeping right. And a lot of times it's because we forgot or were never introduced to working from the inside out. So we'll just leave that at that point, because again, I know people would think that I don't like MLMs, but MLMs have given me so much in regards to personal development. There's still people today, 30 years later, Alex, that have influenced me because of MLMs, that are still friends of mine, that though we may not be on the same journey in life in regards to what we do, our thought processes are, and we support and help each other level up, right? So
Mhm.
never discount the people you have in your lives, and stay in touch with them and network with them, right? Is what I tell the listeners. Again, sometimes people aren't meant to be in your season of life forever, but some are. So be attuned to that and realize that everybody has value.
So Dwight, and I just want to make sure to not breeze over a very important, what I believe is a
Sure.
very important point,
Sure.
which is that, like multi-level MLM, multi-level marketing companies, right, focus on personal development. And the reason they do that is because business is about people. Business is about building people.
Absolutely.
And I believe, like, I want to share what I believe is the matrix of business, right? So
Sure.
like there's three phases. Well, there's a lot more than three phases, but like if you like were to break them down and into three, like this would be it. That an entrepreneur goes through, right? Like an entrepreneur, first of all, well, there's four. First of all, they're fearful and they don't want to take action. They procrastinate. They doubt themselves, and most people get stuck there. Then they become a solopreneur, you know, and they are trying to do everything themselves, and they want to wear all the hats, the sales hats, the marketing hat, the everything, right? Like want to do everything themselves. For some reason, they don't delegate. For some reason, they don't build a team. And a lot of businesses and business owners stay there. They stay with a job. They don't stay with a business. They build a job for themselves, and they stay as solopreneurs. Then the next phase would be like a king, right? Like they learn how to delegate. They let go of their need for control, and they put people in place to do all of the different things that needs to be done in order for them to grow, right? And they become like a king. They become the king of their chessboard, right? They put different people to do different things, and they're able to go to the next level. And then the fourth level would be becoming like a big thinker, in which you're building kings, right? And what I wanted to say, what I didn't want to breeze over, is that people is about business, is about building, that business is about building people, right? If you focus on building people, they will build your business. That's what I've been experiencing for the last couple of months, right? And like I have a team of 15 right now, and a couple of months ago I didn't have a team of 15, and it was because I made this huge shift, mindset shift, which is all it is. Like it's just a decision of staying as a solopreneur or going out and building a team and building people, building yourself first, obviously, because you can't build anyone if you don't focus on building yourself, right? It all starts with yourself, and you build people, and they will build your business.
Absolutely. And yeah, I wasn't going to skate over that. I actually had conversations that were going to come up about that, but it worked out to worked out. You brought it up, and it does fit into what we're talking about. It is focusing on building people. My whole career, and as a serial entrepreneur, every business that I've been involved in has been about people. And every time I made it where I micromanaged, thought I could do it all myself, or even if I brought people, and listeners, you got to realize this too. You may have a team of people, but are you letting them be what they need to be? Are they being that strengthful link? Or are they a broken link because of you? Because you're always overlooking them, you're always shadowing their work, you're always second guessing them. They don't have the ability to grow to their best ability. So if you are a leader of people, as Alex was talking about, focus on building the people. They will help build you and what you're trying to achieve. Make sure you have trust in others, right? That is important as well when you're building a team of people, right?
Trust, super important.
Yes,
Trust, yeah.
absolutely. Giving it up to when we talk about, Alex has mentioned it too, and I've met my listeners know this as well. When I give things up to God and things happen for me, not to me, right? Because I give it up to God, I trust in God. So if I'm trusting in God, that God will bring people to me or bring answers and solutions to me via people, then I need to trust those people. Is it going to work 100% of the time? Absolutely not. There's going to be times when I've trusted wrong, but that's just a corrective thing that happens. I got to realize it. And then the next time I won't have that same circumstance with that same individual or individuals. I will learn, but that doesn't mean other things won't come up. We're always on the growth. We're always climbing in life, and there's always circumstances and hurdles that can come up, but we can get really good and attuned to it if we're open with the right heart to understand that people need to be people and we need to let them be that person. And obviously you gotta monitor your staff, you gotta monitor your people. If they're not even staff, if they're just consultants or people working with you, you need to keep attuned to what it is that they're doing and not just 100% trust. That's not what I'm saying either. I'm saying you need to let them do. If you give them a task, let them do it, and correct only when it becomes an opportunity that you need to correct. Otherwise, trust in people, and people will serve you to the best of their ability.
Yeah. So trust, right? And so I learned this. Who did I learn this from? I think I learned it from Alex Hormozi. You know, you're probably familiar with Alex Hormozi.
The name
He's
sounds familiar. There's
he's
so
the
many.
author of $100 million offers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he started to like become pretty big on the internet. And you know, he shared that the stages that an entrepreneur has to go through in order to level up, right? And it's like a circle, right? It's like a, you know, like a feedback loop. And there's three things that an entrepreneur has to work on in order to level up. First is his skill. Like you need a skill in order to make money, right? And then having a skill is going to take you so far, right? And then there's going to come a point in which the skill, like you're going to be stuck. You're going to have a certain skill to make money or to achieve a certain goal, a certain result, and you're going to get stuck. In that case, you're going to have to work on your character, you know, which is performance. Another word for performance. So your discipline, your consistency, and your focus, right? Your character, and like who you are as a person. And then, you know, working on your character will take you so far, and you're going to get stuck again. In which case, you're going to have to work on your mindset, right? Like the only thing that is going to be holding you back from there is you just believing that whatever the next level is impossible for you. Like basically you are what's going to be holding you back. And then, you know, and then it starts all over again. You got to work on a higher level of skill, and then on a higher level of character, on a higher level of mindset, and it keeps on going. And the reason I'm telling you this is because I've translated this into leadership, right? So I read the book, The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek, and then the other two books, I don't remember what they're called, but he's all about leadership. And he talks about three things, which really made sense, right? When I read it. And the first thing is performance, then it's character, then it's trust, and then it's the vision, the just cause, right? So like if we translate what I'm telling you that I learned from Alex Hormozi, the skill is performance, right? You want to monitor performance, you want to put KPIs, you want to put goals, you want to you know, like set expectations. And then so it's skill, and then character is trust, right? So you want to make sure that you're building, you know, like empathy, vulnerability, honesty, integrity. That's part of character, right? And that's how you build trust. So, you know, so it's skill, character, and in leadership, it's what did I say? It's performance, and then it's trust, and then belief is the just cause, the mission that your company is working towards, right? Like the reason why your company exists. And I always have that in mind. And that's how you build, you know, like a strong team. You build a strong team by focusing on those three, by making sure that you lead, that you are like your mother, that you lead like your mother, that you're firm but fair, right? That you know, like you focus on performance as well as trust and vulnerability, and you allow people to be vulnerable, and you build a safe environment in which they're able to share their losses, so that we can all learn from them instead of getting criticized and be fearful about failing and not taking, you know, any risk. And then always leading with the just cause. Like as a leader, you're constantly needing to, you know, communicate why is it that we exist, where is it that we're going, why is it that what we do matters, and making everyone feel like what they do, you know, plays a big role in that huge just cause and that huge mission and vision. And that's how I translated it. You know, I hope And that's literally what I focus on. So like the reason and if you're looking on YouTube or the recording of this, I look back there because I have a whiteboard with those two circles that I'm telling you about, and I use them every single day.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. Um, Everything you shared is so bang on. I like though the last thing that you just said, you got it on your whiteboard, because visualization is so important. So people listening or watching, Alex was also pointing back at his gentleman's sign, which is SHF. He has his own podcast, Successful, Happy, Fulfilled. Um, Realizing, bottom line, you have to be firm, like he said, when you're dealing with people, and you're dealing with, whether it's an associate, whether it's somebody that you actually are a leader of within your own business, you need to understand that they have their own trials and tribulations. You got to be kind, and you got to know when to be firm. How do you do that perfectly? You can read about it, you can listen to tons of people tell you how to do it, but really, bottom line, you have to experience it, you have to do it. And one thing I will add, in regard to being a good leader, is you have to have great listening skills and be able to also have good visual skills. Watch body language, look how people move, look if their shoulders are up, look if their faces are like downtrodden, or their eyes are darting everywhere, they're maybe not paying attention. And why do I say that? So you're talking to somebody, whether it's just in a conversation or you're leading somebody that's staff of yours or an associate, and you're talking to them, and you notice that their eyes are darting, or that their shoulders are slumped, or that they're not really they're not in present in your conversation. Stop what you're doing, because you're wasting your energy, and take that energy and focus on that individual and say, you know what, Alex, something doesn't seem right. What's up? What's going on? Feel free to share with me, and we can continue on with what we were working on in regards to, the process, or what we're trying to achieve together by working on what's going on with you. Sometimes being compassionate and caring is what a person needs. Maybe they need 5 minutes just to vent that let's say their father is sick, or one of their kids are sick, or their wife isn't well, or their husband isn't well, depending on who it is. Compassion is such a powerful tool that our world has forgotten. They've forgotten the ability to have empathy for others. So if you're somebody that has empathy for others, that means you need to be finely attuned to body language, tonality, and everything about people, so that you can be the most effective leader when you need to be effective. But if a person's body is telling you they're not listening, you're not being an effective leader. All then you're doing is doing the motions and talking, and then you walk away, and that person hasn't heard what they need to do. So then they're necessarily not going to succeed. Then they're going to have one more thing that stacks on top of their shoulders that makes them feel terrible about life. And as a leader, I believe you have a responsibility to have empathy and compassion for people. And also, like you said, be firm. That's all great. But remember, people have their own things going on behind their facade of their lives. And I believe as a good leader, we always need to be responsible to be compassionate, caring individuals, so that we can help them level up and be the best version. Sometimes you're going to, as a leader, though, realize that that person, I hate to say this, but they are a cause that is beyond your help, and you have to part company, and that's okay too. Right. So don't feel guilty about that, people listening. If you're thinking, oh, things, I know what Dwight's talking about, things didn't work out with this person and I had to get rid of them, and oh, I feel terrible about it. As long as you were caring and compassionate and tried your hardest, if it didn't work out, sometimes it's time to go move forward. They go their path, you go yours.
Firm but fair, right?
Yes,
And
absolutely.
yeah, compassion, empathy, grace, kindness. You have to realize that, like if you're starting to build a team, if you are, starting to hire employees and and stuff like that, then you have to realize that those people, are humans as well, right? And like, man, like I wake up at 4 a.m. Most of the days, and there's some days in which I don't, because I'm tired, and there's some ways in which I have doubt, and I have like feelings and emotions come up, and I'm not like as productive as I should be, right? And like being aware of that also makes me aware that, you know, my employees probably have the same things going on, and or even more, right? And
Self-limiting beliefs are crushing for many people every day.
yeah, and I make sure to like help them with that, right? And like when we get on calls and we get on meetings, I make sure to like be aware of like the energy of like what's going on, and I ask, hey, like, is anything going on? And we actually have a weekly call in which everyone gets to share their fucked up and they're fired up. Like, what are they fucked up about, and what are they fired up about? And we like work together as a group to solve each other's problems, because pain shared is pain divided, right? And success shared is success magnified. So with my team, right, every single week we get together and share each other's problems. And you know, that adds to like the trust side, because you know, we are empathetic with each other, we are vulnerable with each other, we're honest, we have accountability, we help each other. So that adds up to the trust, you know, the circle that I described a little bit ago, that adds to the trust side. And you know, that's to build high performing teams, you got to have trust.
Absolutely, 100%. So, what a great conversation! This is exactly what I expected it would be. So, Alex, your mission is to help men master themselves and to live to their full God-given potential. Why do you think today's men have lost their way and are not living up to their true potential?
Well, because they they're just not aware of why we're here, right? Like if you went to school, Dwight, and you weren't aware that the reason you went to school was to like learn and to grow and to become like a well-rounded, you know, person who's able to make decisions. And if you and if you were at school and you were like, why the hell am I here? Like there would be some resistance, right? And I believe that, you know, we've lost sight. Most people are not aware of what life is all about, right? And I believe that life is all about purpose, growth, and contribution, right? Like we all have a purpose. Like everything has a purpose. Even bees have a purpose, right? Like trees have a purpose. Like tell me one thing in nature that does not have a purpose. You can't, right? Like everything has a purpose, and we have a purpose. Like every single one of us has a purpose. And like if you feel like you have no purpose or you haven't found your purpose, whatever that means, then focus on growth and contribution. Focus on growing and contributing, because if you look out the window, everything in nature is growing and contributing. Anything that does not grow and contribute gets taken out of the food chain. And I believe that the reason, you know, like you know, most men are not on this route of becoming the best versions of themselves and tapping into their God-given potential, unlimited potential, is because we've lost sight of what life is all about. We, you know, like I believe life is like a gym, right? Imagine if you went to the gym and you got mad because there was weight on the bar, right? Like imagine if an athlete who wants to build a goal, win a gold medal, went to the gym and didn't want to push himself. And whenever someone put a weight on the bar, he would like he would get mad, right? Like an athlete doesn't operate that way. Not an athlete goes to the gym and he's like looking forward for a hard workout. He's looking forward to put as much weight on the bar, to like push himself as hard as he can, to be sore the next day, to you know, to challenge himself, right? And and like most people are walking around like the muscle fiber. What's the muscle fiber of the athlete saying? What is the muscle fiber thinking? What is the muscle fiber feeling? Like the muscle fiber is like, stop, don't do this. Like I want to go lighter, please, no, right? But the athlete is embracing it, right? And most people are walking around like the muscle fiber, right? For wanting to avoid pain, wanting to avoid challenge, wanting to avoid, you know, like the struggle or the, you know, the growth, instead of walking around like the athlete, which with a growth mindset, right? And that's why I believe, right, like people are blind to the fact that life is a growth centric experience, not a comfort centric experience.
Yeah, it's true. It is. Life is about growth, and so many people get camped in life and they don't know their purpose, right? You talked about that. We all have a purpose. We just don't know or have had the opportunity to work on our 6 inches to understand that. And that's why my mission statement is pretty simple: helping people live life on purpose, not by accident. Because so many people live life by accident. They're never ever encouraged or given the opportunity to even discover if they have a purpose, because nobody's ever sat down. How many people are listening to this, or how many people have we experienced in our lives that have never been asked by anybody, what do you want out of life?
Mhm.
Using you as an example, like, hey, how much faster would we accelerate in life if the school system, for an example, sat us down and taught a lot of the things to us that you and I have been discussing, and obviously micro doses, because the brain at that age is growing and it's thinking, and it can take information in and then it can absorb it. I can't even imagine how much more explosive our society would be, men and women, if they would start this process in school, right? To help people learn what their purpose is. Could they change their minds by the time they turn 18, 20, 24? Yeah, but at least they'd have a foundation to grow their lives, right? To be able to say, hey, this isn't the path I want to be on, but I got all these great tools about how to work my life, how to have systems in place and processes, as you mentioned, your physical freedom, your emotional, your financial, your relationships, all those things. If they taught that in school, could you imagine how powerful of a world we would have today?
Yeah. Well,
Like, boom.
well, yeah. Yeah. I can
Boom.
imagine, because that's what I'm trying to build, right?
Exactly. Of course. So I wasn't necessarily asking the question. I'm talking to the listeners and the people watching, like what Alex is doing and what I'm working on. I wish I would have had, myself. I think Alex and I talked about this on his podcast. I wish I would have had me in my 20s. I
Mm-hmm.
wish I would have had the knowledge or a person to mentor me in my 20s that was me today. I wish I had. And now when I meet somebody like Alex and we discuss, and you're a sharp dude, you're actually what you talk, you're doing the walk. So you're a great role model for the younger generations, and I so appreciate you agreeing to come on the show, right? Because you've added so much value to so many people. One of the things that I want to discuss before we wrap up is something. You have your millionaire podcast automation, your processes. Can you dive into that and talk more about that, the system that you've developed and where it's going moving forward?
Yeah, for sure, man. Thank you for asking. And thank you for, for inviting me. It's a pleasure, man. It's a pleasure, right? Like whenever, I have the opportunity to, add a value to anyone, right? It's a pleasure to do it. So thank you very much for inviting me. And yeah, I appreciate you asking and having me here as well. And yeah, so millionairePodcastAutomation.com. So man, the modern gentleman thing, right? Imagine having a 20-year-old trying to pitch 30, 40, 45-year-olds on how to grow their business without sacrificing time, health, and relationships, right? Well, I spent, as a 20-year-old, I spent a year trying to pitch 30, 40-year-olds on those services, right? On coaching. And well, that didn't went well, right? I had over like about 70 sales calls or more maybe. And all I got was rejection. Like I didn't get any money. All I got was rejection. And of course, right? Like maybe like if you got on a call with a 20-year-old who's saying that he's going to help you grow your business without sacrificing time, health, and relationships, and he's 20, you would probably not give him any money, right? And I understand, but I spent a year, right? Like I'm committed to my purpose. Like I was like this is my purpose. This is what I'm meant to do, and I was willing to do anything other than give up, right? And I got striked, I guess. Yeah, striked with the idea to start a podcast. I was like, well, I'm gonna start a podcast. I'm gonna start a podcast interviewing modern gentlemen, and in the process, I'll learn something, right? Like I'll, if I interview people who are decades ahead of me, I'll be able to learn something from them, and I'll be able to accelerate myself, faster forward with more ease. And in the process, I'll be able to impact anyone who listens, right? Which was what I was all about, like impact and growth and contribution. So I started my podcast interviewing modern gentlemen, right? Men who I believed were the definition of what I call modern gentlemen, men who, had a physical freedom, emotional freedom, sentimental freedom, financial freedom, men who had been through everything that I want to go through in terms of success, to learn from them. I also interviewed men who have been through everything that I don't want to go through in terms of like failure, to learn from them as well. And then I did this to like selfishly learn, right? But as well as to impact people and to impact anyone who listens, because I wasn't being successful, but I was so committed to my purpose that led me down that path. And I did that. I started my podcast out of self-love, right? I started my podcast out of self-love. I started interviewing these people, and I end up like like those typical stories of people who do things from passion, and they end up building something that other people want. Well, that's exactly what happened to me. I did it from love, and I ended up building an amazing system that I now call the podcast cloak track framework, right? Which Dwight, how coaches, course creators, authors, speakers. That's what I wanted to be. Like, I've always had the vision to be a coach, to be a course creator, to be an author, right? A speaker, and that's who I was interviewing. And how like these types of people, a lot of them struggle to like sell coaching programs, and sell courses, and sell books, and get invited to speak at events, right? Well, I help those kinds of people to build a multi-million-dollar network of people who can become their clients, who can help them get in front of hundreds of their ideal clients with their coaching, courses, books, speaking, people who can, who are, throwing events, and can help them, and can invite them to speak, help them build a network of speakers who can speak at their event. And ultimately, I help these types of people build a multi-million-dollar network of people who will help them achieve bigger goals faster and with less effort, right? And the way I do that is with podcast, like by combining podcasting. We use podcasting as a tool, and we combine it with a process that we have called the cloak track, to help these purpose-driven entrepreneurs, entrepreneurs who have they have a message to share. We combine podcasting with the cloak track to build this multi-million-dollar network that will help them achieve bigger goals faster and with less effort. And how it works is like there's 4 steps. And I actually have a really amazing training for anyone who wants to build a podcast. Like, if you watch that training, you can literally go out and start building a podcast just with that training, right? And then the way it works is that there's 4 steps. The first step is alignment, right? Like, there's a lot of podcasts out there, but a lot of people who have a podcast, they like have it just to like sound cool, right? Or like to say that they have a podcast, but it really doesn't do anything for them. And the first step is alignment, aligning building your podcast with who you're trying to be, what you're trying to do, your goals and your purpose, right? Like, just like I did at the beginning of when I started my podcast without knowing, I align it with who I was trying to become, what I was trying to do, my goals and my purpose. And so I asked myself, all right, who do I want to be? I got clear on that. What I want to do, I got clear on that. What are my goals? I got clear on that. What is my purpose? Right? I was clear on that. And then I asked, now that, once I was clear on that, I asked, okay, so what are the opportunities that I need to get there? And once I got clear on that, I asked, who has them? And that's alignment. And once I figured out who has them, then that's my ideal podcast guest, right? So now the next step is finding your ideal podcast guest, which we leverage the cloak track to do that. And that's the second step. The third step is leveraging the cloak track to close an interview with anyone, no matter how rich, famous, or out of your league they may seem. Like, I've gotten over 135 6, 7, 8, and even 9-figure entrepreneurs on my podcast by leveraging the cloak track to find them and close an interview with them. And then the fourth step, which is, is the last one, is the content machine. And the content machine is like the key to being able to tap into other people's audiences, because the content machine, we have a 3-step process as well: optimize, multiply, distribute, which we use to like create a bunch of content. And like, I don't have a big audience, but the people that I share this content with does. Right. And the content machine is like the key to tapping into other people's audiences. And that's how it works. And it works with like any business, right? Like, if you're probably thinking that like podcast is not for you. Well, I'm literally helping an olive oil, like a guy who sells olive oil, do this. Like he determined that his ideal clients were senior citizens. So we started a podcast. Another of his goals is investing in real estate, and he started a podcast. Interviewing real estate developers and real estate people who own upscale senior citizen luxury living, right? And every time this guy who sells olive oil connects with one podcast guest, he literally gets an influx of hundreds of his ideal clients, because and everyone wins and everyone's happy, because he's able to, like, his guests are able to give a gift to their tenants, which is a bottle of olive oil. The tenants get a gift, and my client, this guy who sells olive oil, gets a bunch of clients, right? And like, it works for everyone, right? Maybe you think the podcasting is not for you, or that no one will listen, or that no one will watch, but that's not the point. The point is the network, people, right? And it works for everyone. I would say that it works for everyone, but like, I focus on purpose-driven entrepreneurs, coaches, course creators, authors, and speakers, helping people who have a message to share. And that's those 4 steps that I just talked about. That's what I go in depth on a training, on the podcast Cloak Track framework training that you mentioned. And you can find that on millionairepodcastautomation.com. And I don't hold anything back. Like, literally, if you go and watch that, you could go out and build your own podcast just with that, like 45-minute training. It's not a pitch fest. It's not nothing. I do offer, an alignment call at the end of the training, just to make sure that, you do things the right way, because the alignment call is like aligning building your podcast with everything that you're trying to do is key. And, I help you do that, or one of my team members helps you go through that. And of course, if you want to do it by yourself, then you're going to have all the tools needed for you to do that. But, we do offer, to help you with that. So yeah, that's basically, it was a long way to put that, but yeah, that's what Millionaire Podcast Automation is about.
No, that's not a long way. That's a very descriptive way. It's very easy for people to understand. And at this point, do what Alex mentioned and check out the website. We'll make sure that goes into the show notes that you'll be able to locate at giveaheck.com. Go into the podcast portal. You'll be able to find out information on how to hook up with Alex and discover the amazing system that he just explained, that he's put into place to help others continue to level up and climb in life and understand their purpose and align everything in the process. So, Alex, if you had to give our listeners one last closing message, what would you tell them in regards to giving a heck and never giving up?
All righty, one last thing, right? That the main thing that is probably holding you back is yourself. Just fear, right? The opinion of the good opinion of other people, what I call goop. And when you're able to, step out of that matrix, right? Step out of being fearful about what other people think, or stepping out of, fear, which is false evidence appearing real, or just stepping out of, like the stories in your mind that are holding you back. When and if you're able to step out of this, like, you can do incredible things with your life, because there's nothing that's holding you back other than you. And I would say to you to, like, take more risk and not be fearful, right? And an easy way to, like, not be fearful is to be grateful.
Absolutely. 100% love that last. Your what you said is so true. We are our own worst, like they say, we are our own worst enemy, and we hold ourselves back. And I know this morning, when I woke up, I think I talked about on your podcast, gratitude, being grateful just for opening your eyes and having an opportunity to fight for another day, to succeed for another day, to have corrective action happen for another day, to get a little bit closer to your alignment, to your purpose for another day. All those things, anything that's happening, having gratitude, being grateful for it, is a great catalyst to a great day, right? And if you slide and you have bad moments, learn different things. I coach on that myself. I've learned it and I practice it. I'm not perfect at it, but I teach others how to correct their course throughout today. And even that ties back to being grateful, right?
Yep.
So
100%, man.
yeah, so our time is almost up and I want to respect our listeners in your time. However, before we end, can you please tell the listeners what's the best way to reach you?
Let's see. So man, my Instagram got taken down, recently. So I don't know my new Instagram. I believe is the Modern Gentleman SHF1, right? The Modern Gentleman SHF1. I believe that's my new Instagram. And if not, the best way that you can reach me is on millionairepodcastautomation.com, right? Go to my training. You'll probably love it. If you are someone who has a message, who feels like you have a message to share, if you're a purpose-driven entrepreneur, coach, course creator, author, and speaker, and you want to tap into what I call the 5 currencies of the world. And I'm gonna, go over these really quick. 5 currencies of the world, right? So network. That's, in a currency is something that you trade for something else. Like you trade time for money, you trade money for time, you trade time for goods, money for goods, and there's 5 currencies of the world: network, money, attention, knowledge, and time, right? Like those, I believe, are the 5 currencies. And through building a network, which is what you're going to learn how to do in millionairepodcastautomation.com with the podcast Cloak Direct Framework training, by building a network, you get the other 4, because by building a network, you get attention, right? Because you get people you tap into other people's audiences. By building a network of people who are more successful than you, you get attention and you're able to make money because they can become your clients, or they can put you in front of hundreds of your ideal clients. By building a network of people who are more successful than you and are literally the definition of who you want to be, what you want to would do, and the type of, and who have the life that you want to have, you gain knowledge, right? You learn a lot from them. And by building a network, right, you get attention, you're able to make money, you gain knowledge. And with that, you're able to collapse time. And in my experience, it's probably been decades of time, right? And the best way to find me, like, is with millionairepodcastautomation.com. Again, if you're a coach, course creator, author, and speaker who has a message to share, you're going to love that. And then, you'll probably want to know more, right? And yeah, that would be the best way, the most valuable, thing that I could offer.
Absolutely. I appreciate you being on the show. I'll make sure, again, listeners, go to giveaheck.com, go into the podcast portal. You'll see Alex's face. You'll see the show notes, and you'll be able to access links in order to be able to easily reach Alex. Appreciate you being on, brother. This has been a fantastic conversation. And otherwise, thanks so much for being on Give a Heck, Alex. I appreciate your time and sharing some of your experiences so that others too can learn. It is never too late to give a heck. Thank you for taking time out of your day and listening to Give a Heck. If you find value, I'd appreciate you sharing with your friends and family so they too can learn how to live life on purpose, not by accident. So you do not miss the next episode, please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, and please also post a review. I look forward to reading your comments. This has been Dwight Heck. If you want to check out other podcast episodes or today's show notes, please check out my website, giveaheck.com. And until next time, together let us all strive to give a heck.